Dog saves lion cub from drowning. What the lions do next is unbelievable. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. In the heart of Kenya's Masai Mara, the year was 2018. The morning sun stretched its golden arms across the vast savanna, glistening against dew-soaked grass. The river, swollen from relentless night rains, surged with a wild force, its muddy waters churning like a restless beast. Not far from the banks, a pride of lions stirred awake. Lionesses guarded their newborn cubs with fierce devotion, while the dominant male rested under the shade of an acacia tree. The air buzzed with the sounds of nature, birds calling, insects humming, and the distant rumble of the river commanding attention. It seemed like any other morning in the wild, calm yet charged with quiet energy. But hidden in the stillness was a storm waiting to break. For among the playful cubs exploring the tall grass, one would soon take a fateful step that would change everything forever. The cub, barely 2 months old, strayed from its mother's side, curiosity guiding its tiny paws. Drawn by the rushing sound of the river, it padded closer to the edge, its small tail flicking with excitement. The soil, damp and loose from the night's storm, crumbled silently beneath its weight. In a heartbeat, the ground gave way. The cub tumbled forward, splashing into the violent current. Its sharp cries pierced the morning air, echoing across the savanna. The mother lioness roared in desperation, racing to the bank, her golden eyes wide with panic. But the water was merciless, dragging the helpless cub further away. The pride gathered at the edge, pacing and roaring, but none dared to leap into the raging river. The male growled deeply, frustrated by his own helplessness. All they could do was watch in horror as their youngest fought against the torrent, its tiny body disappearing beneath the waves. Not far from the river, a team of rangers patrolled the grasslands with their loyal companion, a black Labrador named Keto. Known for his intelligence and courage, Keto had been trained to track, protect, and alert the rangers in times of danger. That morning, his ears twitched as a faint, desperate sound reached him through the roar of the river. Keto froze. His amber eyes locked on the direction of the cries, and without hesitation, he bolted toward the riverbank. The rangers shouted after him, startled by his sudden dash. As they followed, their hearts pounded when they saw the scene unfold. The cub thrashing helplessly in the violent waters, the lions roaring in terror, unable to act. Ignoring the fearsome presence of the pride, Keto edged closer to the water, his body tense with determination. The rangers gasped, realizing what he was about to do. Before anyone could stop him, the Labrador launched himself into the raging current. His sleek, black body cut through the water with powerful strokes, each movement driven by instinct and courage. The lions growled in confusion, their eyes fixed on the dog defying nature's order. Against all odds, the race to save the cub had begun. The current was merciless, tossing Keto side to side as he pushed forward. Water splashed into his eyes, but he kept his gaze locked on the small cub struggling ahead. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back, yet something deeper, an unshakable drive to protect, propelled him onward through the roaring river. The cub's cries grew weaker, its tiny body bobbing between the waves. Just as it began to sink, Keto surged closer, lunging forward with a desperate burst of strength. His jaws opened, and with remarkable precision, he clamped down gently on the scruff of the cub's neck, holding it as a lioness would. Now came the hardest part, getting back. The weight of the cub made every stroke heavier, and the current threatened to rip them both away. Still, Keto kicked with everything he had, his muscles straining against the torrent. Inch by inch, he battled toward the muddy bank. On shore, the lions roared, torn between rage and hope. The rangers held their breath, cameras trembling in their hands. Finally, with one final push, Keto dragged himself onto the bank, the cub dangling safely from his jaws. Against all odds, the rescue had succeeded. Keto laid the cub gently on the grass, its tiny chest rising and falling as it coughed up river water. The mother lioness, her golden coat gleaming in the sun, took a step forward. Her eyes, sharp and unblinking, locked onto the Labrador. The air grew heavy, every creature holding its breath. The Rangers froze, their hands hovering near their rifles. They knew one wrong move could end in tragedy. The mother's roar thundered across the savanna, echoing with fury and fear. Slowly, she padded closer, her muscles rippling beneath. Her skin, every movement radiating power. Keto stood still, tail low, ears pinned back, but he did not run. The lioness stopped just inches away. She sniffed her cub, nudging it gently until it whimpered. Relief flickered in her eyes, but then she turned her gaze back to Keto. The Rangers tensed, certain the dog would be struck down. Instead, something shifted in the silence. The lioness did not pounce. She simply stared, torn between instinct and something far greater. The lioness lowered her head, brushing her nose against the damp fur of her cub. The little one stirred, letting out a faint squeak, alive but weak. A deep rumble vibrated in the mother's chest, not of anger, but of relief. She lifted her eyes toward Keto, and for a fleeting moment, predator and protector locked gazes in unspoken understanding. The rest of the pride crept closer, circling cautiously. The massive male stood tall, his mane catching the sunlight as he observed the strange intruder. Normally, any animal, especially a dog, would have been torn apart without hesitation. But the air was different now, charged not with violence, but with curiosity. The lion seemed to sense what had happened. To the Ranger's astonishment, the mother did something extraordinary. Instead of attacking, she nudged her cub gently toward Keto, as if acknowledging the dog's role in saving its life. The cub stumbled forward, pressing weakly against the Labrador's paws. The scene was surreal, nature's fiercest predator showing grace to its unlikely ally. The Rangers whispered in disbelief, their voices trembling. What they were witnessing was no ordinary encounter. It was a moment that defied instinct, rewriting the laws of survival itself. For hours after the rescue, the lions did not chase Keto away. Instead, they allowed him to remain near the pride, a silent guardian beside the cub he had saved. The Rangers stood in awe, cameras rolling, capturing every second of this impossible truce between predator and protector. The cub, now recovering, pawed curiously at Keto's tail. At first, the Rangers braced for the mother's anger, but nothing came. The lioness simply watched, her golden eyes calm, as if accepting the dog's presence. The other cubs soon joined in, their playful swats and tumbles surrounding Keto in a circle of innocence. Keto lay still, his dark coat shining under the sun, his ears twitching as he allowed the cubs to climb over him. He belonged to another world, yet for this moment, he was one of them. The Rangers exchanged glances, struggling to comprehend what they were seeing. In the heart of the wild, where survival was ruled by tooth and claw, a fragile bond had been born. And those who witnessed it knew. They were watching history unfold. By evening, the lions finally drifted back into the tall grass, their cubs safe and playful once more. Keto returned to the side of the Rangers, his fur damp, but his spirit unshaken. The men exchanged stunned glances. Each knew they had witnessed something few would ever believe without proof. News of the rescue spread quickly through the Masai Mara. Rangers shared their footage, and within days, the story reached newspapers, television, and wildlife forums across the globe. Experts called it a once-in-a-lifetime event, an act that blurred the lines between instinct and compassion. Locals gave Keto a new name, the Guardian of the Lions. Children spoke of him as a hero, and even elders who had lived their lives alongside the savanna's predators admitted they had never seen such harmony. What began as tragedy had turned into a legend,